Good morning, everybody. Here we are back again. We are going to be looking today at chapter 17 of A Child's History of the World. The title of the chapter is Kings with Corkscrew Curls. After Rome's bad start, she had one king after another, and some of these kings were pretty good, and some of these kings were pretty bad. The most important city in the world at this time was far away from Rome on the Tigris River. This city was called Nineveh. And here lived the king of this country called Assyria, which I told you about some time ago. As usual, the chief thing we hear about Assyria and the Assyrians is that they were fighting with their neighbors. This, however, was not the fault of the neighbors. The Assyrian king who lived in Nineveh wanted more land and power, and so they fought their neighbors in order to take their lands away from them. These kings had long corkscrew beards. They were such vicious fighters that they were feared far and near. They treated their prisoners terribly. They skinned them alive, cut off their ears, pulled out their tongues, bored sticks into their eyes, then bragged about it. That doesn't sound like very nice people to me. They made the people whom they conquered pay them huge sums of money and promised to fight along with them whenever they went to war. Assyria became so strong and so powerful that it owned a lot of the world. The land between the rivers called Mesopotamia, and the land to the east, north, and south, and Phoenicia, and even Egypt. Lily, I need you to listen, please. Come here and sit. This big country of Assyria was ruled by the king at Nineveh, who lived in great magnificence. They built wonderful palaces for themselves, and on each side of the way that led to the palace, they placed rows of huge statues of bulls and lions with wings and men's heads. These winged animals are what are called cherubs in the Bible. So here is the artist rendition. See there, you've got the wings, and you've got the bull's legs, and lion's tail, and then the men, and then their corkscrew beards and everything, even the corkscrew hairs too. Perhaps you have heard a pretty little baby angel called a cherub. Isn't it strange that these Assyrian monsters would also be called cherubs? When the Assyrian kings were not fighting men, they were fighting wild animals, for they were very fond of hunting with bow and arrow, and they had pictures and statues made of themselves on horseback or in chariots fighting lions. Often they would capture the animals they hunted alive and put them in cages so that the people could all come and see them. This was something like a zoo, such as we have nowadays, so an ancient zoo. The rulers of Assyria had very strange names. Sennacherib was one of the most famous. Sennacherib lived about 700 BC. Once upon a time, Sennacherib was fighting Jerusalem. His whole army was camped one night when, as they slept, something happened. For when the morning came, none woke up. All of them were dead, both men and horses. An English poet named Byron, you'll learn about them probably in high school, has written a poem called The Destruction of Sennacherib, describing this event. Perhaps they were poisoned. What do you think? Seems to me like they were probably poisoned or something of that ilk. All right, next one is somebody named Ashurbanipal. I don't know as a mother that I would name my child Ashurbanipal. That would be kind of an interesting name. Ashurbanipal was another king who ruled later around 650 BC. He was a great fighter too, but he was also very fond of books and reading. So Ashurbanipal started the first public library. The books in that first public library were, however, very peculiar. Of course, they were not printed books, and they were not even written on paper. They were made of mud with the words pressed into the clay before it dried. This writing was cuneiform, which we've already talked about. The books were not arranged in bookcases either. They were placed in piles on the floor. They were, however, kept in careful order. Excuse me. Still getting over whatever this thing is. Okay, where were we? They were, however, kept in careful order and numbered so that a person who wanted to see a book in the library could call for it by its number. Assyria reached the height of her power during the reign of Sennacherib and Ashurbanipal. And everything in Nineveh was so lovely for the Ninevites that the time when Ashurbanipal reigned was called the Golden Age. The Golden Age. Although everything in Nineveh was so lovely for the Ninevites, everywhere else, the Assyrians were feared and hated, for their armies brought death and destruction wherever they went. Excuse me a moment. Just cannot seem to get past this cough. It came to pass that not long after Ashurbanipal died, 2 of the neighbors of Nineveh could stand it no longer. These 2 neighbors were the kings of Babylon. These 2 neighbors were the king of Babylon, who lived south, and a people called the Medes, who lived to the east. The kings of Babylon and the Medes got together and attacked Nineveh, and together they wiped the city off the face of the earth. This was in 612 BC, 612. And the power of Nineveh and Assyria was killed, dead. Therefore, this is called the fall of Nineveh, or the end of Nineveh. We might put it up on a tombstone. Nineveh, 612 BC. I wonder if that had any relationship to God's destruction of Nineveh. We'll have to look up in the Apocrypha. Well, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Or if today is Friday for you as well, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Ta-ta for now. We'll see you next week. Hopefully my voice will be back to normal. Bye.